we're so happy to have Stuart Kohlhagen, the founder and director of the Science Nomad, who will talk to us about the engagement Mirage, reflections on developing impactful, here it is, cross-disciplinary, yeah, made it, STEM, and the quest for transferable skills. So Stuart Kohlhagen is a globally recognized STEM education leader with over 40 years of experience. He founded the Science Nomad, promoting hands-on science and critical thinking. Formerly at Questacon, he shaped national education programs and developed interactive exhibits. He has worked in over 25 countries, training teachers and building STEM education capacity, and was awarded the Australian Public Service Medal for his contribution to science outreach and education. I would like to call Stuart on stage. Welcome. We're so happy and honored to have you here. We're looking forward to your presentation, so the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Stamatis. Let me just set up the screen share. And that should be coming through to everyone at the moment. First of all, just thank you so much to the IEEE STEM Summit and the organising group for giving me the opportunity to sort of connect with active STEM educators and to try and share some of my experience. I won't say wisdom, but experience in STEM education. What I chose as my topic this evening was to go and look at the thinking that we often have around why we're doing what we're doing as STEM educators. And I'm sure that many of the people online tonight are relatively experienced STEM educators and are probably all doing a fantastic to an astonishing degree of work and outcome. But in the experience that I've had since sort of leaving the National Science and Technology Centre in Canberra, where I was the Director of Science and Learning and running the Science Nomad project, I've kind of worked in 25 countries, mostly developing and emerging countries that are beginning just at the start of acquiring or seeking to conduct STEM education and improving STEM education. And one of the observations that I have there is that, again, at early stages of their journey into STEM education, there is a lot of confusion, a lot of uncertainty, certainly, about what is STEM education and why we're doing it and what are the outcomes. And I will come back to that several times tonight. What are the particular outcomes that we're doing this? Why are we doing it? What are we trying to achieve? A lot of early adopters or teachers in contexts that have been, I won't say dropped in to becoming STEM teachers, but nominated to go and do the STEM thing. I'm very active on sort of Facebook, and I see a lot of the STEM education Facebook groups, teachers going, oh, I've got these robots, it's coming up to Halloween, what do I do with them? And I'm sort of thinking, oh, that's such kind of a revealing question to me about where they are at with kind of understanding what the value is of STEM and kind of what we're hoping to achieve by doing STEM. And perhaps somewhat tongue-in-cheek, I've kind of adopted the title The Engagement Mirage. I see a lot of effort, a lot of investment going into things that look like STEM, are STEM flavored, generate great photos, photo opportunities of children enjoying playing with robots. And that sort of looks STEM. And it might be STEM, and you can do fantastic STEM with those resources. But you can also miss achieving the outcomes that we really are very focused on. And so this is one of the sensitivities, the trigger words I have, I guess, about STEM education is looking at, oh, the kids loved it. My answer to that when I'm looking for evaluation data for any program, they're going, oh, everyone loved it. My answer to that is chocolate. Everyone loves chocolate. Was that why you were doing the program? It's going, and so this evening we'll kind of look at why are we doing STEM? What are we trying to achieve? And how to ask ourselves those hard questions so that we can think deeper about how we structure the robots program or the STEM program or the recycling projects. How do we think about those as educators so that we really do get the most valuable outcomes? So I've kind of called that the engagement mirage, that it often distracts, seems to be the goal that we're all heading for, but in fact probably isn't. Or to me, it shouldn't be the first thing you think about. So for me, it's kind of captured by hopefully this slide. And if I had to finish my presentation in under 5 minutes, we would stop here. So this is the message, I guess, that I want you to take away. Engagement is the train. It's not the railway station. It's not the destination. And so doing things that are fun or taking that as the point that we should focus on is misleading us, or misleads a lot of practitioners, a lot of educators, that they're thinking, oh, I need to make this fun. They're not enjoying it. Engagement is certainly a critical component, but it's not the end point. As I say, it's the train. It helps us get there, but it's not the railway. It's not the railway station. So tonight, I'm always ambitious in what I try to teach or share. So my list tonight for what I hope we're going to cover will be looking at the STEM, what, why, how. I have a very big, in my work, I have a very big focus on sort of the skills and transfer of skills. And to achieve that, there is a lot of understanding about sort of internal motivations about that. And to do that, rather than talking only in the abstract, which is not, to me, my first language, sort of, abstract academic theories and frameworks is not my first language. I don't dismiss them as important, but it's not my first language. We're going to spend a lot of time looking at a case study, which is the Dharmajarini Wataya School, which I happen to be working in for the next fortnight, which I'm presenting to you in. And I'm situated in their makerspace, which we've created as a result of the work which I've been doing with this school for the last 4 years. And we'll talk about that. We'll see a lot about that as we go through. And hopefully at the end of that, we'll have some takeaways, some, I don't know about recommendations, but just some thoughts. I won't say advice, because again, I don't know you as individual educators to be giving you some suggestions. I wouldn't be that bold, but we'll get to the point of going, here are some of the things I think about when I'm going, here is a new project, how do I make this have impact? For me, that's kind of the big word. I'm going to do some activities. I could sit at home and just watch my flowers grow, and I'd be quite happy. If I'm going to do these projects at this stage of my life, as Stamatis suggested, I'm very old and I've retired, so I could do anything. Why am I doing this? I want to have some impact. So my planning and thinking is always about How do I make sure this makes a difference? And we'll look at that through this case study. So with that said,
Hello, everyone. We've lost connection. Dr. Kohlhagen is in Thailand right now in a lab, and so we'll wait for him to reconnect again. Thank you for your patience. Dr. Kohlhagen is in the process of reconnecting again. Thank you.
okay, are we back online?
Yes, I can hear you
Okay.
and see your slides, so you're good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what happened. The internet here is normally pretty good. Let me just. So STEM is often presented kind of science first and some of the other disciplines secondary. And maths in particular is one of the subjects that is very much kind of the orphan child, if I can put it that way, of STEM. In many countries, in many situations, certainly in the areas that I work, STEM is kind of taught as S or T or E or M. If you teach any of those, it'll often be labeled STEM. And I can understand the drive to be part of the STEM movement, but the reality is that's kind of a STEM washing, if I can coin that phrase. It's kind of a STEM washing, and it's missing the key skills that STEM was really intended to support. Last year's physics teacher is not necessarily this year's STEM teacher. if all they're doing is teaching last year's physics this year and calling themselves a STEM teacher. That's one of the things to be aware of. It's one of the things I see happening, that if it's teaching science, it must be STEM because that's popular, that's the fad. One of the things which I've also noticed around the place is kind of the Scrabble wars. They were terrible, early 21st century, where everyone was arguing to try and get their letter. The humanities, the hex subjects, the arts, it's about creativity. All of the letters in the alphabet kind of had to get into the acronym. And again, I think I don't exclude any discipline, any branch of teaching. I don't exclude any branch of teaching from contributing to the goals that STEM was created to support at all. You can do it in any subject. For myself, I call myself agnostic as far as the topic. I just don't care what topic you're teaching. Well, I do care. I'm interested in everything, but I don't care about what topic you teach. We can look at the outcomes that STEM was intended to support and what you need to teach, and we can find a way. I'll go and turn on my camera. We can find a way to go and support those specific subject requirements and the goals of STEM, and we can fit them together. So I'm not a great fan of the term STEM. For me, I actually prefer kind of 21st century skills or skills generally as the thing to keep foremost in mind. So you can do it on a bus, you can do it on a beach, you can do it in a classroom. All of those locations can give you an opportunity to contribute to what we call STEM, the outcomes of STEM. If you look at sort of skills surveys, so in my previous life, I got to work with the chief scientist of Australia, and as part of that, we did work that looked at audits, surveys of industry. What skills do you need? What skills is industry looking for? And the slide which is up there at the moment is from a global survey, not an Australian survey, but something like technological literacy is only number 6. And if you looked at or wanted to look at, okay, where is coding? If we're doing a lot of coding in STEM, how important is coding? Even for IT companies, you, as a potential recruit, knowing a particular language is about number 10 or 13. So that specific skill is not what they're looking for. All of those skills above that, analytical thinking, creativity, critical thinking, resilience, persistence, motivation, curiosity, all of those are the skills. That's not me saying they're important, that's industry. People that worry about profit. That's what they're saying they want in their graduates that they're going to recruit. And so I sort of turn that around and project that back to you to go, when you're thinking about a lesson, a particular topic, what specifically are you doing? I mean, specifically are you doing to support critical thinking? I don't want to use the term motherhood statement as if that's a derogatory term. I think it's a powerful term. But we often go, our schools will have as their vision statement, we're going to graduate creative thinkers, critical thinkers, problem solvers, lifelong learners. We have that as a global vision statement. So I ask you in your class, as you're teaching them to use Scratch programming to animate a bumblebee or whatever particular project you're doing, how does that link to that vision statement? Because I believe in the value of that vision statement. How does what you do support critical thinking, really? Not just, I hope it does, but genuinely, what specifically are you doing? What pedagogy, what strategy are you adopting to actually literally support critical thinking or problem solving? Don't leave it for chance. What are you doing to help it? Because if you're just kind of, oh, it'll happen through osmosis or with a bit of luck, we're not giving it the priority that it actually needs. I had the fortune to academicians in, I think we've just lost my camera. Something is happening here. Are you still hearing me there? Some strange things are happening here. Yes, okay, good, I will continue. The system seemed to swap my camera. So I had the benefit of working with some excellent applied learning science researchers at the university in Canberra, developing ELSA, ELSA, Early Learning STEM Australia. And this was a program funded by our government to go and help get 3, 4, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds STEM ready. And working with this group of researchers, much more academically high-powered than I am, some of the best in Australia, we developed this program called ELSA, and I worked with them on one of the components of the program. And the strategy that we came up, the framework, was ERA, E-R-A. So for me, a very simple framework. If you need to go and check it online, it's too complex. It's not going to turn up in your classroom. You won't remember it. It's not going to work. So experience, represent, and apply. And this was something we developed for early learners on there. And without spoiling the end story, I actually use this approach for all of my programs, whether it's working with adults or researchers in university. Give them the experience, get them to make the observations, get them to ask the questions, to have the question in their mind, and then we will move to representation, where we'll help them make sense, and then to test and strengthen that, we will then get them to apply. See if you can apply that knowledge to a new problem. So ERA. I really recommend that you think about this as just a Swiss Army knife to have in your pocket. Think about this as a process for what you do. Another thing which we developed during the ELSA project was this list of STEM practices. I actually think of these, talk about these as being dispositions. So if this list is, again, indicating that I work with academicians, academics, I think there are probably too many categories on here, but this is what we used. But we kind of broke what helps a person be ready for STEM, depending on what we mean by STEM. We have ideas, we have methods, and we have values. We'll look at values for a moment. We value curiosity, imagination, creativity, teamwork, and persistence. So my answer to any of the teachers, the educators that are working on these projects, that are worried about how do you do STEM, you're going, if you're doing anything which specifically supports those outcomes, you're doing what we want. So don't worry about if there's lots of maths or stuff in there. That's second, third order important. If you're fostering teamwork and persistence, curiosity, champion, all right? You're doing a great job. That's what we want you to do. So stop worrying about how do I put maths into my cooking class. All right, don't worry about that. Look at this list. Think about the dispositions. And this was very much in early years learning about getting students ready for what we think STEM was about. Another, I guess, idea to share with you is don't equate engagement with curiosity. Curiosity, if you trigger it, will certainly lead to engagement. But if you put engagement first, it could end up just being fun and not go anywhere else productive. All right, there's lots of online math education games that really exemplify that. They make it fun, but they don't actually assist in your learning about developing deep understanding. They may make practice fun, but they don't actually help you with understanding. So don't confuse the two, curiosity and engagement. Just looking at the time, I won't spend long on this slide, but looking at curiosity versus simple engagement, curiosity is about cognitive outcomes. Engagement can be just affective, it's emotional, which is not nothing, but it often isn't what we're looking to support. If we go down that list, we look at the underlying mechanisms of this. We've got curiosity can often be uncomfortable, and a lot of classrooms going, oh, the kids didn't like it. They felt it was hard. There was discomfort, both with the teacher and the students. They're going, that's a good thing. It can be a good thing. But if you're uncomfortable about where it's left off, that may leave you with the motivation to go and follow it up further. Whereas if it's just pleasurable, it was great, you'd like to do it again, it doesn't leave you with the motivation, the persistence to go back and try again. And that's persistence. And that's part of problem solving. That's a disposition that we really need to support. So learning a new skill can be hard for the learner, it can be hard for the teacher. It takes time. And your curricula is already jam-packed. It is so full. There's so little time left. I understand that. I'm not a teacher myself. I don't have the strength of character to be a teacher. I'm sorry, but I'm prepared to do everything I can to help you. We've got it taking a lot of time. When you start learning a new skill, you put yourself in a position of lacking mastery. You're no longer skillful. Things are hard. You feel dumb. I don't want to use the word. You feel dumb. This is hard. I feel stupid. And it's personal. You take those things personally. And that is what's part of the importance of motivation. Because it's hard and it's going to be uncomfortable. So if you're going to do it, it's going to need motivation. And with motivation, we've kind of got two broad categories. You've got two broad categories of intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is, this interests me, this bugs me. I want to get this sorted out, all right? This is annoying. Extrinsic motivation is there is a competition and the teacher has set it, or it's homework, or I get a reward if I get it right. Those things in learning science have been proven. Extrinsic motivation can lead to demotivation of your personal interest. And it's that personal interest that leads to persistence, that leads to problem solving. So just be wary of that competitive component. I'm a big believer in challenge. Challenges are great. Challenges give diversity. You can solve a challenge in all sorts of different ways. A challenge is hard. A challenge gives you room to innovate, room to grow. But a competition, there's a winner. And if you don't feel confident at the start, then 90% of your class, when you give them a competition, go, that that girl over there is always going to win. She's the smart one. The rest of us are not going to do well. That's demotivating, whereas the challenge can be quite strong. And then there is a third leg to this stool, which is about the topic which in educational pedagogy we would call transfer or transference, near and far transfer. I teach you a particular topic. How do you recognize that problem elsewhere? And how do you solve or apply that knowledge? How do you apply that knowledge elsewhere? And that's what we claim in our school vision statements, that we're lifelong learners, problem solvers. This is about, we will teach you this, you can find new problems, you will solve them. That's what we aim for. But again, I push back to you to ask you to think closely. What do you do specifically in your class to support this process? So it's very easy to teach Scratch, but how do you teach critical thinking while you're teaching Scratch? That's the next level of challenge for us. It's not just you nor me, it's us. How do we teach that? Let's look at a case study. I've done a lot of work in the last few years here at this school in Thailand, Damajarini Retire School. It's an orphanage, has about 1,500 girls. So it's girls from disadvantaged backgrounds, orphans, single mothers, abusive family situations, girls at risk. And they recognised a number of years ago that they were doing quite well, supporting the girls in much of their basic education, but they weren't doing very well in STEM. And they recognised that was a shortfall. They got in touch with me through a friend, a mutual connection, the Goethe Institute that I work for. And they got in touch with me and said, what can you do to help? We want to do better by our STEM education. And when they got in touch with me, they said, because they've been looking online, we want to do something about robots. And I said, no, you don't want to start with robots. You don't want to start with robots. They said, yes, we do. And I said, no, you really don't want to start with robots. We can do a lot with other areas first. I said, no, we want to work with robots. And I discovered that you can't win an argument with a Buddhist nun. Okay, so there's an extra bit of advice for you. Don't argue with a Buddhist nun. Just take what they're after. They're very powerful women. So I said, all right, we will do robots, but we'll do it my way. And so at the beginning of my engagement with the school here, I sort of looked at robotics. Robotics can be a great subject for STEM. It can contain, logic and critical thinking. It's got coding and technology. It's got engineering. It can have enormous amounts of mathematical thinking. It can be collaborative. It's important. And it's full of problem solving because it's as frustrating as heck to go and work on. So we're going, all right, robotics can be good. If you look at actual doing robotics, it's challenging because it's a set of interconnected skills, which is great for STEM, but it's also part of the challenge. And it's always, another challenge is it's not always aligned with core curriculum, and it's not necessarily something which appeals to everyone, particularly girls, if they haven't been introduced to engineering or technology or science. They're sort of going, oh, that's not something for me. It can often seem very distant. And teacher readiness, how many teachers have been trained with the skills required to sort of support a robotics program? In most countries around the world, it's not very many teachers. And so my process is always, what are the outcomes? What do I need to achieve? What are the barriers? Very much, what are the barriers? And given it's my program, I need to take responsibility for going, how do I deal with those barriers? I can't push it onto them. They're already busy. What do I do? So with this particular program, we developed a strategy, a plan. I would work with the school, but I would come get to know the school, get to find out what the interests were. Don't assume that I know what a 13-year-old Thai girl is interested in. Where are the teachers up to? What do the teachers know? Teacher training is a challenge in developing countries. What approaches do they have? What resources do they have? And to develop a longer term plan. And so over a number of years, I've been coming to the school for a couple of weeks, twice a year for about 4 years now. So first phase, get to know them. I ran problem-solving activities that were, we would say, embodied. They get to, everyone stands up, they try to solve the problem with their bodies. Here we're seeing some girls looking at the problem being solved. They're discussing the problem, they're discussing the strategy. They're actually doing the critical thinking, they're doing the problem solving in this format. I can specifically point to it. I know what I'm doing to try and foster some problem solving. I've given them a problem. And then if you think back to that ERA, that experience the problem, that represent the problem, here we're actually I got them to do a diagram, which actually represents the structure of the problem that they were dealing with. We visualized it in a different way, perhaps abstract, but still very visual. And then I gave them another problem, but really it wasn't another problem, it was the same problem. That is to say, the same structure of the problem, but it looked different. And so we go, try this. And then several of the groups halfway through are going, oh, this is really the same as the other one. Going, yes, success, okay? So you've now transferred your understanding of that problem, the essence of that problem, you've now brought it over to this new situation. And that's dealing with transfer. So think deeper. In this particular quest to ultimately get to robotics, the next thing I did with the girls on this first visit was we got broken bubble jet printers, 3D printers, photocopiers, video recorders, and we did a teardown, what we call a teardown. So if they're going to build robots, they need manual skills. A lot of these girls will not have used tools before. And so we're going, here are some tools, here is some equipment, take it apart. They got to see systems. How do you put things together? How do you build a system? How do parts work together? How do mechanisms work? And at the end of that simple project, simple to organize, but powerful, we also got materials. We got motors to use. We got switches. We got all sorts of useful components. And we were talking about recycling and design as a secondary benefit. In this particular first program, I then moved the teachers over to let's learn some programming. So we started with Scratch, not uncommon. In all of these workshops that I've been doing at the school, I've worked with teachers and students together. So we've had 5 or 6 or 10 teachers and 10, 20, 30 students. The teachers are not at the same table as the students. I don't want the teachers to be at the table to represent the guru, the wisdom, because if they are at a table with students, the students will just be quiet and wait to be told by the teacher. That's the opposite of what I want. So the teachers work as a group of teachers, the students work as students, and the teachers get to learn and talk about how they will use this. The students get to absorb and actually learn the science. And so that's, again, a very deliberate strategy in my programs. Here, this particular teacher is going, how do I make an animated interactive version to show circulation in a heart? So I'm getting them to apply, to have a problem. How do I teach this? Let's use coding to help you teach it. Here, the group of girls on the left have come up with an interactive simulation on plastic recycling, identifying different plastics. did we miss a slide? One of the other groups worked on creating an interactive solar system. We then moved on to using some pre-existing robotic carts, little robot vehicles to do line following. And that's a common feature of a lot of STEM programs, and it's not bad at all. It's a great introduction. But one of the things which I've observed is that it often doesn't take you very far, or doesn't take the students very far. They very quickly go, what else can I do? What else can I do with this? What's the next problem? And transitioning from this level of robotics to, if you like, more fundamental or more complex or more challenging, is often where a lot of programs stall. Getting them to transition from this point to the next level is often very, very hard in schools. So what I did with this particular group is, at that point, after they played with the carts, got them to line follow, I said, now you need to use your software skills and your understanding about how robots or automatic systems can operate. I said, now you need to make something interesting. And so they cut up cardboard, they repurposed the little robot carts as microbit controllers to do things. And then the teachers and the students came up with animated, cute pets. So there's a Doraemon, there's a lion. They would control how these would operate and move. So they're animating these. So we were building a whole lot of engineering skills, software skills, electronic skills. The giraffe on the left there had a sensor that if you put a ball in front of its foot, it would go and kick. So it's a soccer playing giraffe. Lots of very creative applications apply ERA. They're applying it. But they're all also learning the same core skills about software, control, and action. But they're all got their own personal motivations. On the left here, the girl in the center, Bamboo, wasn't into cute things. She's now studying engineering at university. She decided she was going to make an orrery, so a working model of the solar system. Towards the end of this project, I got them to go and make ugly cars, ugly robots. So they had the nice commercial little robot carts. Not good enough. Let's go and make some ugly ones. And so cardboard, motors, a new controller. They had to go and understand the parts of the robot, about electronic circuits, about relays and operation. So this was kind of the next level down, or next level up, if you like, next level into detail. And they weren't pretty, but there was so much more that they learnt in making these ugly cars than they got from using the commercial cards. Okay, they learnt so much more from that. Solved many more problems, had to understand many more principles to go and get them to work. So in that sort of a strategy, from my perspective, working with the teachers separately to the students, the teachers also got to see how they could become mentors, not gurus. They weren't the source of all the answers. They were supporting it. Students could find their own interest. It might be graphic design. It might be the coding. It might be the physical engineering, the electronic engineering. They all participated in self-directed learning. They kind of discovered what things they were good at, what things interested them. And that was really important. But still, after that first initial program, the next sort of challenge was really how to ensure that this activity persisted in the school, how to embed it. Just next door to where we were running these trial programs, I found a storage room. Didn't look very much, but because of the progress we'd made with the girls, the school administration and myself applied to a foundation, and we got about $70,000 US, which can go a long way in Thailand. And so we rebuilt that room to become the first makerspace. We got 3D printers, laser cutters, some additional tools, hand tools, and we set it up. At the end of the first project that we ran in that makerspace, the head of the school came to me and said, it's not big enough. We need something at least twice as big. So she and I walked out and identified a toilet block we were going to demolish. And we did, and we built this space, which is the space I'm presenting to you from at the moment. 3 times bigger, a wonderful makerspace. We've got 6 3D printers, we've got computer-controlled vinyl cutters, we've got laser cutters, we've got lots of tools and robot components. We're doing lots of things. The girls now that are coming through here, we've got a space where this can happen all the time. Over the 3 years, the school has gone from graduating no girls into STEM careers to over half of the graduates. 50% of the graduates now go into STEM-related tertiary education. An enormous shift, enormous. Could not be more proud of what the school has done. Here, the girls are now building up from the basics, a complete robot. They've got to understand the power, the motor control. It's not a kit where they're playing. They've got to understand everything, and they're working as teams. Some of them working on the design, some on the coding, some on the electronics, which is real systems engineering. Here in this picture, the girls have got, because everyone wants it cute, or all the girls here want it cute, and so they wanted to have a face on the robot. So we stopped and we taught them how to write programs to communicate with mobile devices, tablets, mobile phones. And from that, they've got a world of opportunity to do mobile app development, which is not really robotics, but some of the girls in the team were interested in it. And now they've got an introduction to that. And so towards the end, some of the girls were getting into assembling almost research grade robots. So looking always at the clock, just a few quick recommendations. Be really hard on yourself, self-critical about what the tangible outcomes are. Understand that genuine skill development needs time. How do you give them the time to do that? We often focus in our classes in wanting all of the students to start at the same time, finish at the same time and succeed. And in doing that, we often solve all the problems for them. So if we want them to develop problem-solving skills, we've got to leave them with problems. And that means accepting that they end up in different locations. So the other thing is how to make space for their interests. You will always have some specific outcomes, but how in doing that do you leave space for them? And then the last point is go back to the first point and be hard on yourself. What do they really need to learn? And what am I doing specifically to support it? That's really the cycle that I encourage you to think about. I'm going to jump quickly through this next bit about transfer and transdisciplinary work. One of the things which I've done here at the school was I've come back and I've worked with the general science teachers, science and maths teachers and computer science, and said, you can bring these skills, the requirement for these skills into your core curriculum. So we had physics teachers, biology teachers, chemistry teachers. So I showed them how you can actually use Arduinos and sensors to go and take measurements. How can you collect data? And that's kind of, I guess, the basic idea between this. I call it code for learning. You're not learning to code, you're coding so you can learn. So it's an application. And so here some of the teachers are now using PhotoGate to go and measure the mechanics of a ball rolling down a slope. They're getting numbers, they're real numbers, it's not in a textbook. The numbers are dirty. They can put them in an Excel spreadsheet. How do you process this noisy data? That's real science. It's not textbook science, it's real science. I brought some CO2 monitors, so the teachers and I put together some bags over plants, and we looked at photosynthesis for real, not in a textbook, but for real. We looked at diffusion of sodium using a $4 conductivity probe, and we collected lots of basic data. And so at the end of 4 years, the school had gone from not doing anything in STEM to now the girls are winning regional and national competitions in engineering, in coding, in mathematics, in science. They've kind of gone from zero to hero, I would sort of say, just in a period of 4 years. And I come 2 weeks a year, twice, but the school is ready for change and they've accepted that. I'm going to stop there and hopefully give us time for at least a few questions. I'm sorry that we had some technical dropouts. That can sometimes happen. Over to you all. Open for any questions, and please feel free to hunt me down under the Science Nomad on Facebook or email.
It looks like we have a few questions that have come in. So the first is, how can educators help learners stay intrinsically motivated when learning new skills feels slow or challenging?
Yeah, look, that's the big question. The short answer is giving them the chance to find the problem, their problem, their interest in doing that. And so telling them that this is a skill that they will find useful in 20 years, that's not the pathway. So starting with them, as you would see in the slides I shared, about going, here are some mechanisms that you can use. You can create something with it that can be fun and interactive. What's that going to be? And then their interest is in making the soccer-playing giraffe. They weren't initially interested in coding, but now they understand that, oh, if I learn this hard stuff, I get to do what I want. And it's that kind of kung fu, learning kung fu movement that's hard for us to do, hard for everyone to do, but that's the essence of it. How do you make space in what you need them to achieve so they can try something which is personal?
Thank you very much. So our next question is, do you typically break into teams that focus on one letter, specifically in STEM, or do you try to make every project a more holistic approach to it?
Yeah, I'm not sure I see the elements of that question as binary, because you can do both. I do a lot of teams-based or group-based work. Again, and complex group-based work, so that there is a natural, there's an opportunity for natural strengths and interests to find their niche within that project. So I don't want to push someone that's a graphic designer into learning coding. We're going, hey, look, let's hop on the computer. Let's learn how to go and automate or write code to help script how you generate your artwork. And so I do a lot of that sort of thing, working with, say, an artistic person to go, hey, let's do a bit of code in Inkscape or some other program to go, let's see how we can automate what you are doing creatively. So a creative application to it. So always looking for that that bridge between this is what you're doing, here are some skills that are really relevant, let's introduce you to a new way of doing what you want to do.
Thank you. So we, I think, have a couple more questions. What tools did you use to gather real classroom feedback?
Great question. Cards, little cards. So I at the beginning of most big projects, I'll hand out just a small file card and going, what is it that you wanted to achieve? What do you think this is going to be about? And at the end of the project, I'll hand out another set of cards and going, what was your experience? What was your feedback? What did you learn? Where do you want to go? And I will bring those two sets together as my assessment for impact and change. So again, I'm not a teacher. I don't have the strength of character to be a teacher full time. But for me, I want to go, what change did I get? And for me, that's one of the broad or big picture ways I work from that. There are other strategies, but that's the simplest big one.
Thank you. I think we've got time for one more question. So what changes or outcomes have you observed when students are empowered to explore their creativity through hands-on STEM projects?
Yeah, look, it's I have a T-shirt. I do a lot of my communication through T-shirts, and one of my T-shirts says, "If I give you the answer, you stop thinking. If I ask you a question, you start thinking. When I get you to ask your own questions, you don't stop thinking." And one of the things which I cherish from the graduates, from the alumni, from my projects, is watching girls that are going, I can learn this, I'm going forward, I'm going to keep doing it. And I stay in touch through Facebook and other social media to the students that eventually graduate from the program and see where they go. And that, as longer term evaluation, I get as very powerful feedback for what changes have we made and what the impacts have been.
Wonderful. I think that wraps that up. Thank you so much for such an insightful presentation today. I know I enjoyed it very much, and I know that our participants have as well. I thank you on behalf of our Tri-Engineering team for joining us today.
Look, my pleasure. And if any of the participants in the session want to get in touch, just look for me as the Science Nomad on email or Facebook. Get in touch. More than happy to communicate and talk with you. I'm really passionate about supporting educators. It's the path to big impact, which is why I do what I do.
Thank you. You have a good rest of your evening.
Indeed. Evening to everyone.